Hi, first grade. I am really excited because today we are beginning our first module in our Wit and Wisdom reading. And this module is called A World of Books. And we're going to get to read a lot of really great texts about books around the world. And today we're going to read Tomas and the Library Lady. So before we start reading, we talked about what it means to notice when we read The Rainbow Fish and we use this signal. Remember, notice means to pay attention to something. Something kind of jumps out at you and you take notice of it. We also noticed things in a piece of art, and artists put special things in their art that they want their viewers to notice. And the things that we notice are called details. And just like in a painting or any type of art where we take several details and we put all the details together, it helps to tell us what the painting is about. We do the same thing when we read books, and books have details. So as we're reading today, you're going to be noticing and thinking about all of the details in our story, Tomas and the Library Lady. If you remember in the Rainbow Fish, we talked about the pizza questions, the big pizza question, the slice of pizza question, and the bite size question. Our big pizza question for this whole module, several books, this will take us many weeks to answer this question. How do books change life for people around the world? We're going to keep coming back to that, so keep that one in mind. Our slice of pizza question that we're going to be able to answer in several days from reading the Tomas story will be, how do books change life for Tomas? And then finally, our bite size question for today is, what do I notice and wonder about Tomas and the Library Lady? So that's what you really want to be focused on today as you listen to the story. What do you notice and wonder? And just quickly think about, what does it mean to wander? I've said that word a couple of times now. That's right, it means to ask questions. Good readers ask lots of questions about the books that they're reading. Okay, so really quickly before we read the story, I did just want to mention about being a good listener and what it looks like to be a good listener. And I know we're not in the class together in person, but we still can be good listeners while we are on our classes and our calls or listening to lessons. So think about, what do you remember, and maybe from talking about it in kindergarten, what are some things good listeners do, right? See if you thought of any of these things. They look at the person that's speaking. They use their listening ears. They're really paying attention and listening to what that person is saying. They're looking and watching the person that's speaking. Now, sitting crisscross and hands in lap, I would say in class that might be true, but in our situation, or when you're listening to someone, outside of school, you would just generally want to be kind of standing or sitting still and focusing on them rather than kind of moving around and playing with stuff, just because it's hard to listen to someone else and really listen to what they're saying if you're kind of doing a bunch of other stuff and moving all around. Okay, so as we go and listen to the story Tomas and the Library Lady, try to keep those things in mind about how to be a good listener, and find a comfortable place to sit and enjoy the story. Okay, so here we see Tomas and the Library Lady, and you actually have a copy of this book yourself. So you can feel free to grab that copy, or when you do your response after this video lesson, you can certainly use your copy of your book, or you can just watch it on the screen for right now. Just a really quick side note, these books, these are one of the materials that I will ask for you to return, so I can use them for future classes with future students. So if you could just try to keep them in a safe, keep the book in a safe spot. So I'll have that for next year. All right, so Tomas and the Library Lady. You want to think about, what are some things you're noticing And then what do you wonder about this story? So sit back, relax, enjoy the story. It was midnight. The light of the full moon followed the tired old car. Tomas was tired too, hot and tired. He missed his own bed in his own house in Texas. Tomas was on his way to Iowa again with his family. His mother and father were farm workers. They picked fruit and vegetables for Texas farmers in the winter and for Iowa farmers in the summer. Year after year they bumped along in their rusty old car. "Mama," whispered Tomas, "if I had a glass of cold water I would drink it in large gulps. I would suck the ice. I would pour the last drops of water on my face." Tomas was glad when the car finally stopped. He helped his grandfather, Papa Grande, climb down. Tomas said, "Buenas noches," good night, to Papa, Mama, Papa Grande, and to his little brother Enrique. He curled up on the cot in the small house that his family shared with the other workers. Early the next morning Mama and Papa went out to pick corn in the green fields. All day they worked in the hot sun. Tomas and Enrique carried water to them. Then the boys played with a ball Mama had sewn from an old teddy bear. When they got hot they sat under a tree with Papa Grande. "Tell us the story about the man in the forest," said Tomas. Tomas liked to listen to Papa Grande tell stories in Spanish. Papa Grande was the best storyteller in the family. "En un tiempo pasado," Papa Grande began. "Once upon a time, on a windy night a man was riding a horse through a forest. The wind was howling, whoo, and the leaves were blowing, whish, whish. All of a sudden something grabbed the man. He couldn't move. He was too scared to look around. All night long he wanted to ride away, but he couldn't. How the wind howled, whoo, how the leaves blew, how his teeth chattered. Finally the sun came up. Slowly the man turned around, and who do you think was holding him?" Tomas smiled and said, "A thorny tree." Papa Grande laughed. "Tomas, you know all my stories," he said. "There are many more in the library. You are big enough to go by yourself. Then you can teach us new stories." The next morning Tomas walked downtown. He looked at the big library. Its tall windows were like eyes glaring at him. Tomas walked around and around the big building. He saw children coming out carrying books. Slowly he started climbing, up the steps. He counted them to himself in Spanish. Uno, dos, tres, cuatro. His mouth felt full of cotton. Tomas stood in front of the library doors. He pressed his nose against the glass and peeked in. The library was huge. A hand tapped his shoulder. Tomas jumped. A tall lady looked down at him. "It's a hot day," she said. "Come inside and have a drink of water." "What's your name?" she asked. "Tomas," he said. "Come, Tomas," she said. Inside it was cool. Tomas had never seen so many books. The lady watched him. "Come," she said again, leading him to a drinking fountain. "First some water, then I will bring books to this table for you. What would you like to read about?" "Tigers, dinosaurs," said Tomas. Tomas drank the cold water. He looked at the tall ceiling. He looked at all the books around the room. He watched the lady take some books from the shelves and bring them to the table. "This chair is for you, Tomas," she said. Tomas sat down. Then very carefully he took a book from the pile and opened it. Tomas saw dinosaurs bending their long necks to lap shiny water. He heard the cries of a wild snake bird. He felt the warm neck of a dinosaur as he held on tight for a ride. Tomas forgot about the library lady. He forgot about Iowa and Texas. "Tomas, Tomas," said the library lady softly. Tomas looked around. The library was empty. The sun was setting. The library lady looked at Tomas for a long time. She said, "Tomas, would you like to borrow 2 library books? I will check them out in my name." Tomas walked out of the library carrying his books. He ran home, eager to show the new stories to his family. Papa Grande looked at the library books. "Read to me," he said to Tomas. First Tomas showed him the pictures. He pointed to the tiger. "Qué tiger tan grande," Tomas said first in Spanish and then in English. "What a big tiger." "Read to me in English," said Papa Grande. Tomas read about tiger eyes shining brightly in the jungle at night. He roared like a huge tiger. Papa, Mama, and Enrique laughed. They came and sat near him to hear his story. Some days Tomas went with his parents to the town dump. They looked for pieces of iron to sell. Enrique looked for toys. Tomas looked for books. He would put the books in the sun to bake away the smell. All summer, whenever he could, Tomas went to the library. The library lady would say, "First a drink of water and then some new books, Tomas." On quiet days, the library lady said, "Come to my desk and read to me, Tomas." Then she would say, "Please teach me some new words in Spanish." Tomas would smile. He liked being the teacher. The library lady pointed to a book. "Book is libro," said Tomas. "Libro," said the library lady. "Pajaro," said Tomas, flapping his arms. The library lady laughed. "Bird," she said. On days when the library was busy, Tomas read to himself. He looked at the pictures for a long time. He smelled the smoke at an Indian camp. He rode a black horse across a hot, dusty desert. And in the evenings, he would read the stories to Mama, Papa, Papa Grande, and Enrique. One August afternoon, Tomas brought Papa Grande to the library. The library lady said, "Buenas tardes, señor." Tomas smiled. He had taught the library lady how to say "Good afternoon, sir" in Spanish. "Buenas tardes, señora," Papa Grande replied. Softly, Thomas said, "I have a sad word to teach you today. The word is adios. It means goodbye." Tomas was going back to Texas. He would miss this quiet place, the cool water, the many books. He would miss the library lady. "My mother sent this to thank you," said Tomas, handing her a small package. "It's pan dulce, sweetbread. My mother makes the best pan dulce in Texas." The library lady said, "How nice! How very nice! Gracias, Tomas. Thank you." She gave Tomas a big hug. That night, bumping along again in the tired old car, Tomas held a shiny new book, a present from the library lady. Papa Grande smiled and said, "More stories for the new storyteller." Tomas closed his eyes. He saw the dinosaurs drinking cool water long ago. He heard the cry of the wild snake bird. He felt the warm neck of the dinosaur as he held on tight for a bumpy ride. Okay, so that was the story. Okay, I hope you enjoyed that story. And this was just our first time reading through where we're just noticing and wondering, and we're going to spend a lot of time really getting into the details. But what I would like you to do now is share and think about a question that you had while listening to the story. And what you see on the screen here is what we call a wonder wheel. And this is something that we'll use quite a bit during our reading classes. And a wonder wheel, as you can see, has the asking question, the words that we use to ask questions, like who, where, when, what, why, or how. So for today's response, you're going to write in your journal a question that you have about the story Tomas and the library lady, and feel free to use your copy of your book. So you notice that the words who, where, and what are in darker print in bold, because I want you to focus on choosing one of those words to begin your question. So an example might be something like, where does Tomas find books? Or what makes Tomas use his imagination? Or uh, what does borrow mean? Maybe you heard a word that you were unsure of. Who tells Tomas stories? So if you noticed, all of those questions I just asked started with either who, where, or what. So I'd like you to try and in your journal, write down a question that you had about the story using who, where, or what. And then you'll go ahead and take a picture of it and send it through Seesaw. I can't wait to see what you wonder about Tomas. And then we'll work together and go back through the story and try to answer our questions. All right, so I will talk with you soon, and thanks so much.